One Punch Man is peak. I'm sure you've heard plenty of people say how amazing it is. Even I've made a video on the anime version of the show and why it's considered so good. But for some reason, to this day, I've literally met so many fans that don't read One Punch Man. And I've got to tell you that you guys are actually missing out really bad. And why is that the case? Well, let's start with a quick rundown on this manga's history. So many of you may know that originally it was a webcomic made by the artist One, and this other really good artist who had previously worked on manga like Aishio 21 caught his eye with this fresh story that is One Punch Man. And you probably would have guessed who this is by now, and yeah, you're right, it's Yusuke Murata, the artist for the One Punch Man manga. Well, when Yusuke Murata picked this up, the popularity of the show skyrocketed thanks to the artist and his work in making the manga way more readable and appealing compared to the webcomic counterpart. Which isn't to say the webcomic is bad, but actually quite the opposite. But let's talk about the manga for now, since that's what you clicked for. So yeah, when the popularity of One Punch Man boomed, people gathered interest, which caused the anime adaptation to be announced, and my goodness, when that first season came out, it was insanely good. I mean, the animation was just perfect, as well as the pacing, everything was just done so well. The way it didn't take itself seriously is a perfect introduction to the show as a whole, and sets the scene of the series. And I've already made a detailed video about the success of the anime, so let's keep this part short. But what you need to know is that the popularity of this manga skyrocketed after this season, so let's talk about it. Firstly, when it comes to the manga and why it's so good, specifically the genius of it, let's talk about the art. And I know, don't click off the video just yet. I'm sure you've heard this hundreds of times before, but I can't talk about the manga and not mention it. But I'll keep it short. The art is insane. I mean, it's insanely insane. So insane that Murata is pretty much animating the animation sequences himself. I mean, take a look at his choice of paneling in the Genos vs Saitama fight. You cannot tell me that this isn't a whole anime sequence already. I mean, Murata might as well join JC staff on season 3, because it's already been ages since it's been announced and I can't bear to wait any longer. And plus, we'll get some insane art from him. But yeah, this man's paneling is god tier. Murata is already known for his detail in his art, but his paneling goes under the radar when talking about his genius. I mean, the dynamic poses when it comes to the fight scenes he draws out are just so good. Currently, as I'm making this video, the manga is on a break, and honestly, he deserves it because I can imagine the stress and effort it takes to produce chapters like these. Now, I don't know exactly how the manga is created between One and Murata, but I'm sure that regardless of the insane baseline that One provides with his webcomic and outlines that he sends to Murata, which do deserve insane credit because this man's paneling is different. But regardless of that, Murata does bring his own original ideas to the manga, especially with some redraws and changes he provides to One, who I think approves it in the end, so yeah, he deserves credit for the paneling too. And the sheer impressiveness of this is really on another scale because it's not just a couple panels per few chapters. Murata is consistent with this. Just look at the countless examples that we have from 200 or so chapters we have right now. Murata's work ethic must be insane, and that's another reason the manga is as good as it is. We can't forget that this masterpiece is bi-weekly, which means every 2 weeks for you that don't know. Yeah, comparing this to monthly mangas, you'd think OPM is the monthly one, but nah, Murata's just that good. Now, the last aspect of Murata's art that I'll mention is his character design. Honestly, it's just too good not to mention. We know that there is a baseline from the webcomic, but in reality, a lot of these designs are very different thanks to the distinct art styles between the two creators. Just look at some of these insane character designs. The detail in them is just so astounding to watch and such an incredible feat to accomplish these every chapter. Okay, the next thing to mention is the comedic factor of this manga, and it doesn't take itself seriously at all, except when One decides to be serious and more mature than normal, which works out insanely well, and we've seen it before. One is just a genius in writing, on his other works like Mob Psycho 100, which is a pure S tier anime, in terms of writing at least. It is amazing from the fights to the character interactions between the main character Mob and the side characters, and if you haven't watched the anime or read it, then I seriously urge you to do it right now, and who knows, I might make a video on it soon. But in One Punch Man, One again shines in his genius writing choices for interactions between characters, and of course his amazing ability to write villains as we've seen with Garo. I mean, the dynamics of writing that this man possesses is in no shortage at all, and I could read his work for days. Now of course there are some differences in the writing choices for the webcomic and manga, evident in some scenes like the Garo vs Saitama fight and what comes afterwards, but this doesn't change the past 150 chapters in any way other than small differences here and there. Now I've already talked about the premise of this show and why it's so appealing and interesting and just fresh, which it doesn't seem to be at first, because a main character who defeats everyone in one punch seems boring as a series. But no, of course this is proven wrong by the series itself. It just flips expectations upside down, and one way it avoids this boring idea is Saitama not being there half the time. Obviously the writing of the side characters as well. fan favorites like Genos, Bang, Garo and Moomin Rider, Fubuki, Tatsumaki, just to name a few. They're all given screen time in this manga and aren't there to support the MC, but rather they have their own individual story arcs and journeys along the way which do end up leading to Saitama, but the individuality of their stories is undeniable and adds so much to the dynamics of the story, as side characters interact with one another and fight monsters to create amazing fights that otherwise would end in one punch. But thankfully Saitama's away watching TV or going grocery shopping or something, because it would rob us of great fights like Gaara versus the Tank Tops, or Tatsumaki versus Orochi, or Zombie Man versus that one vampire dude in the association place. But anyway, they're all masterpieces and these fights aren't in short supply thanks to the lazy main character himself, Saitama. Anyway, as you can see, this manga is not short of any amazing moments and genius storytelling and fights, ranging from the art to the writing. So many parts of the series are just perfect in my opinion, so please read it whether you pick up the manga or webcomic or whatever. I mean, the webcomic is further ahead in the story. But please guys, read it and support the series, especially with the hype of season 3 coming out soon, as you can catch up with all the events of the story so far, and honestly, you'll probably forget what happens by the time season 3 comes out because it's just taking way too long. So please hurry up JC staff. Anyway, thank you all for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel because we're putting out some banger videos and trust me, you don't want to miss them. So please help me out and like the video and leave your thoughts on the manga in the comments, because recently it's been getting a bit controversial.